The fight between Elon Musk and Donald Trump might be fun to talk about, because it is, but it's also important to keep the focus on Elon Musk's work and the damage his work and the cuts that he's imposed have done to federal agencies. Listen to this meteorologist from South Florida warning viewers that cuts to climate and science agencies will make it harder for him to accurately predict the path of hurricanes this year.
What we're starting to see is that the quality of the forecasts is becoming degraded. There's also a chance, because of some of these cuts, that NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft will not be able to fly this year, and with less reconnaissance missions, we may be flying blind, and we may not exactly know how strong a hurricane is before it reaches the coastline.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz of Florida. He is a member of the DOGE caucus and was previously the director of Florida's Emergency Management Agency, so I think he knows a little bit about the weather.
Just a touch.
Just a touch about the weather. Maybe you can weigh in here. The acting FEMA chief apparently told staff that he didn't know about hurricane season. That he told employees on Monday that he did not know the United States had a hurricane season. That was according to two people who heard the remarks. They said it was unclear if he was serious. Obviously, the Department of Homeland Security says he was joking. The people in the room say they didn't feel that way.
Wait till he finds out that there were 5 categories of hurricanes. We're going to blow his mind. I mean, he's learning on the job. Look, he has no emergency management experience. His experience actually is in weapons of mass destruction, which actually makes sense since the secretary has dropped the bomb on the agency. And so FEMA is in rough shape. Look, I'll give the president credit for a second. He was right. FEMA needs reform. The emergency management industry has known that for a while. Part of that reform is to get FEMA out of Homeland, because Homeland is just a giant bureaucracy. But actually what Kristi Noem has done is she's taken a situation that needed help, and she has made it worse. They're not giving out declarations on time, which is actually slowing the response in red states, by the way. She's holding back $10 billion of money that was already approved through previous declarations. States like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, they're broke if a Category 4 storm comes in from the Gulf and they don't have immediate FEMA aid. You're talking about Florida maybe not getting pre-landfall declarations. That means these cities and counties are waiting potentially to find out if they're going to be reimbursed. They're not going to move their assets. They're not going to move their water, their power generation, all of their logistics. And so this is an absolute recipe for disaster. And quite frankly, look, the secretary might be the next Michael Brown. I mean, that might be where we're headed. I mean, Trump's not going to be happy when he finds out, if we get a big hurricane, that FEMA is not working.
Well, you have your governor out there doing a ton of press conferences saying that he believes that even if Florida were not to receive federal funds, that you would still be in a position to handle hurricanes. Do you agree?
He's half right. Let me explain. What he means is that Florida could handle it if we get the money. Right, so Florida had.
Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I'll explain to you.
Isn't that the point of FEMA?
Of course it is.
Okay.
But what he's trying to say is we don't need the logistics that FEMA can bring when FEMA organizes all of the DOD assets. Smaller states need that. Florida can go do that themselves, but they can't do it without the reimbursement piece. Because if you're talking about $3, $4, $5 billion, they're going to have to take that out of the healthcare budget, the DOT budget. Right. They're going to have to take that out of their education budget. They blow up Florida's budget, Texas's budget the same way if the federal government doesn't reimburse, let alone, these red states that are in Tornado Alley. I mean, you saw the governor of Arkansas begging to get her declaration, and she met the threshold and worked for the president. And so, yes, this has been a total mistake of theirs, where they could have just done reform. Now, the president has done a reform council. They are meeting. I am supportive of that. I am working with them, trying to use my expertise and figuring out how we can make FEMA faster, more responsive. But also, the money is important. These states cannot do this without the dollars.
Well, the resources, though, in addition to the money, I think would be equally important, because I get your point about having Florida being in a position where it could move pieces, and they've got material that they can distribute and personnel, et cetera. But isn't part of that cost the offset that comes with having FEMA officials and those folks who can help in the reconstruction process? Also a big part of the puzzle. So it's not just the dollars, it's the dollars plus these other things that now the states are going to have to probably increase their budgets for. because you're now, will require more manpower, more women power, more people power to move that mound of dirt or to move that pile of sand than you would if you had, the federal, the federal officials who were there with their resources helping.
No, 100%. And remember, not all hurricanes are created equal. Remember Hurricane Dorian in 2019 that decimated the Bahamas and stopped right before hitting Florida? That was a Category 5+ hurricane, 180-mile-an-hour winds. It exceeded hurricane glass. It exceeded the wind rating on a nuclear facility that we have in Florida. That would have devastated. We would have needed all of DOD assets. So when the governor says stuff like that, yes, Florida can handle it. But if you get into a catastrophic event, no, you're going to need federal resources. And look, DOGE has decimated these agencies. Like, I joined the DOGE caucus because I think the American people wanted to see government get more efficient. But the caucus has met twice. DOGE is dead,
yeah,
right?
I was going to ask you about that. You said that.
Yeah, DOGE is dead. And I don't like to speak ill of the dead, right away. Like, we got to give it...
You want a mourning period.
You need a mourning period. Like, yeah, but it is dead. Rigor mortis has set in. Okay, Elon's doing this divorce thing with the Republicans, which I'm kind of worried about big balls, like custody of who's getting big balls in this divorce.
A lot of people nowadays,
the kids always get caught in the middle when this happens. I'm a child of divorce, and so I feel for him. But DOGE has DOGE has made nothing nor anything efficient. What is more efficient? Give me one government service, one government department that they made more efficient. They made the government the Newark airport. That's what they did. They took it and they broke it. Yeah. Okay. There's not a single thing that the caucus has done, the subcommittee that Marjorie Taylor Greene chairs, or that Elon has done that has made anything in government more efficient. They've made it worse. And the Trump administration is finding this out, by the way. FEMA's a great example. FAA's a great example, right? They're finding out that we got to rehire some of these people. We got to fill some of these jobs, because if you didn't bring in technology to fix some of these problems, you just got rid of people, you made things more inefficient.
Jersey has been invoked. She's like, they deserve the smoke. Can we? What about these Republicans who are now feeling a little regretful about the bill that they went back and forth and helped pass? Folks talking about they haven't read it, they didn't know some of these things were in there. Marjorie Taylor Greene had an epiphany on social media.
She missed just those two pages.
Just those two pages. Mike Flood from Nebraska was like, I am calling the Nebraska delegation in the Senate on this one because I didn't know about us, the contempt in the courts. What do you feel about these regrets? Are you hearing this from your colleagues?
Oh, listen, we love Dark Elon. I mean, this is very fantastic. Okay, first of all, this was always predictable that this was going to happen at some point in time. Bad timing for them.
When you say this, you mean the schism between those who really care about the deficit and consider themselves hawks and...
The one bill was never going to work, right? Because there's too much. You have competing interests. But they didn't want to work with the Democrats. There's stuff that we could agree on here, right? There are tax cuts, like the overtime one. There are things we could have agreed on. They could have passed those individually. And then they could have done the partisan stuff on their own. But
they could have legislated?
Exactly right.
But the key thing, Congressman, they didn't want to give up the things they had to give up.
Correct, of course. And they didn't want to work with us.
Right.
They didn't want to work with us. They wanted to try to do this on their own. So they put all of this stuff, and now they have the competing interests of the party, right? Look, we do have a debt problem. I mean, we should be honest about that.
Yeah.
But it isn't going to be fixed just by cutting alone. You're going to have to raise revenue and do cuts. And it's going to have to happen by both parties doing it. And actually by Elon talking about it, quite frankly, this is the first kind of time we've seen people talking about the debt in a real way. But the Republicans have been voting...
I'm sorry, just real quick, just for the record, I want to be clear about what we're understanding, because Elon's coming off like a real hero. Do we?
Oh, no.
Y'all know what Elon wants to cut,
Listen,
right?
A broken clock can be right twice a day.
Okay, so I'm just saying, everybody's talking about Elon.
They say he's mad because he didn't get his EV credits, and that's really what's simple.
Well, his EV credits, his NASA administrative chief, he wanted more Starlink stuff.
But to get that was cut.
I don't care about his intention. He's saying that this bill is going to add $2.5 trillion to the debt, and he's right about that. It is. And for Republicans who talk about, they're the deficit hawks and the debt hawks, they're trying to take people's Medicaid away, and yet they're still adding to the debt by giving out these giant tax cuts. And so let him call him out. We were saying it. Right now that he's saying it, the world's richest man, the man with the largest communications platform, this is their nightmare that they got to deal with. They created it. They got to deal with it.
Let them play with
Maybe Elon will become an independent.
And write a book about it.
Congressman
He's not going to be a co-host on The View, though.
Congressman Jared Moskowitz of Florida. Thank you.